came out really good. I had no issues with it coming out. Mine. All right, Leekautorepair. So I got a 2008 Buick Lucerne. No, I'm sorry, scratch that. Lacrosse. This one got the 4.8. Is it 4.8 now? 4.3? I don't know. It's a North Star. Cause I remember the one I know the 4.0, but I don't remember the. It's a North Star engine. I don't really see these engines like that often, man. It's just a rare case right now that I have one in the shop. So if you watched one of my old videos, you saw that this particular car, this exact car, I've completed a rear main seal. I did that. So if you go back in the videos, you'll be able to see it. So this car is back again because this time around I'm going to be replacing the power steering rack, the steering gear rack and paint, however you want to call it, and then I'm going to replace the high pressure hose. So a job like this, I'm going to get into details in a second, but I already have the part ready to go. It was supplied by the owner itself. So only thing I got to do now is basically swap over the the outer tie rods, because they're going with inners already. So I just got to swap out the outers. So you notice I'm working alone. I don't have anybody in here working with me. Do you see anybody in here working with me? No. So it means a job like this can be done independently, on your own. You can do this in your driveway, at your house, however you prefer, whatever your preference. Preference. I don't even know what I was thinking of the Spanish word, prefiere. ¿Cuál tú prefieres? That's what I wanted to say. So now I'm gonna go over the steps of what needs to be remove. I'm not gonna like walk you on me replacing it and installing. No, I'll give you tips and we could just go from there. Make sure y'all leave something in my Cashapp too. Make sure y'all follow me on Instagram. I leave my Cashapp information on the side of the screen, whichever part of the screen. It could be right there, it could be right over there, I don't know, but be sure to I save you some money. Save me some headache. Leave a little donation. I'm just saying, we just break even. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. I can't even finish my train of thought. So let's begin. So first things first, what you want to do, a job like this, and I always tell people, if you watch my previous videos, and you lucky I'm not cursing. I be trying to be cool about saying this, because people be leaving some weird comments and just not trying to say anything about anybody's level, but just sometimes people for the simplest stuff make me feel incompetent. So this is for your safety. If you cannot take the wheel off, you will not have the cojones, whatever it is. You won't be competent enough to finish the job, is what I'm saying. Why? Because the job is a little tedious, a little bit. You can hurt yourself. So if you can't get the tire off, park it. Yeah, like less than an hour. Alright. That was Mom Dukes. Don't you hate when you doing the video, you get a phone call, then you gotta cut the clip and then you gotta restart it again. So let's proceed. Is what I'm trying to say. So now that we got that squared away and everything, the next thing you want to do is let's just talk about what I broke down as far as suspension wise. This is literally like my third take. So you can see me because I can see you. So let's wear some gloves. Why are we wearing gloves? Because we don't want our hands dirty. Why do you don't want your hands dirty? Now some guys say, oh, I can feel the boat better without a glove. It's not sex. You just decide you don't wear a glove. This is working on cars. Don't make the two go together. Wear gloves. You don't want to have dirt you can't remove, because the dirt will stay on you for years. Some mechanics' hands, I see, they can't get the dirt out. So, one of my favorite rules I like to tell everybody. What? If you cannot get the tire off, this bad boy right here, you see it right there? You can't get the tire off, I don't want you doing a job like this. Why don't I want you doing a job like this? Because you're not competent enough to complete the job if you can't get the tire out off itself, right? My point exactly. So let's just begin. One of the first things I did, like I said, I took the tire off. The second thing I did was I removed this caliper. Why did I remove the brake caliper? And I only did about 2 bracket bolts, not the caliper itself. So I took the whole caliper off, and then I zip tied it to the coil of the strut. Why did I zip tie it to the coil of the strut? Because I don't want it falling. I don't want it in my way. I had a strut fall, a brake caliper fall on me before. It feels good. And when I say it feels good, it feels good. So, alright, what did I do after I took the 2 bolts off for the caliper bracket? Next thing I did was I did the axle bolt. Why did I do the axle? Sorry, the axle nut. I did the axle nut because I need this knuckle. I need space because I need to get, well, I'm moving too fast. I did the axle nut, but after I did the axle nut, I did the 2 nut and bolts that go right here for the strut bolts. I took those off, and the reason I needed to get those off because I needed this axle out. Why did I need this axle out? I want enough room for when I'm lowering this car. I don't have the suspension that's preventing me from getting the gap I need to complete a job like this. You see how I can, with my hand, I have space and opportunity, all because I undid the suspension, which can be done and completed matter of 15-20 minutes per side, depending on how fast you work. And if you're getting stuck on certain parts, like you're gonna have to remove the tire rod too. You have to remove the tire rod so you can get this knuckle to be swivel moving around, because you're going to need it to get this axle out. So that's another thing you need to remove. If you're trying to take, you're going to need power tools to do a job like this too. You don't do a job like this without, you do it without power tools, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer. Why are you going to suffer? Because you don't do suspension parts most of the time. Depending on what it is, don't do it without power tools. It's just hard. And you can bust your knuckles up with it and everything. So I got the axle out. I got the rotor off to the side. If your rotor keeps falling out because you don't have that rotor screw, all you got to do is just take one of your lug nuts and screw it into the stud, and you Gucci. You don't have to worry about the sway link on this because the sway link is not attached to the strut like most cars, other cars. It's attached to the subframe, so that's good. So now that I have space and opportunity, I can proceed on, well, let me run through it. Other stuff really take off. There's going to be a 10mm bracket for this brake hose. A bracket with a 10mm bolt. That's what I wanted to say. Screwed in there, take that off so that way you have slack to maneuver everything off. Now you got this wheel speed sensor connector for the hub. They go right here. I had that disconnected. Why? Because look at the distance between this knuckle and the strut itself. I have a gap here. I don't want anything entangled. Tangled up, and I don't want anything stretched. So we just leave it like that. So that's all that you need to do for this side. Remember, one side applies to the other side. Now, what did that mean? What I just told you. That means I'm not going to show you the other side. I'll show you one side. One side. Uno lado. Solamente. ¿Por qué? Porque one side. It pertains to the other side. So what's the point of me going on the other side and showing you? Not going to show you. No. And you don't understand me in English, I say it in Spanish. No voy a enseñarte a otro lado de auto aquí. No. Hoy no. Probablemente otro día. Pero hoy no. 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 No preguntarme. Alright, so next I got my engine support bar. Make sure you go to Harbor Freight and grab one of these. I don't even remember how much these cost. All I know is when I went to go grab this from Harbor Freight, I believe I paid like 65 or 80 bucks for this. I don't remember. This thing does me justice. So I got this hook rod connect to a bracket on top of the thermostat housing. There's a bracket and a strong, and I have a dog bone mount over here that acts as an extra support. So the engine is not like sagging. It's just where it needs to be. You're going to have to undo the, you got one mount over there, a mount in the front, and then you got you got a transmission mount over here with 2 studs. You got to remove the, you're going to have to remove them. Why do you need to remove the stud? The mount bolts. because well, the mount nuts, I'm sorry for that again, but you need to remove them so that way I'm only dropping the subframe down. I don't want the powertrain to come down with it, so I just remove the mount, the 3 mounts, one transmission mount, a mount on the front of the engine, and the mount, well, this, they will consider this the front of the car, but this would technically be like the side mount. The front mount would be the one that's technically in front of the engine where the crank is. That would be the front technically. So we got right here and on the other side right there. So I got those replaced. I removed those, and because I removed my mounts, I have wiggle room, I have slack, and I did not suffer, I did not struggle with removing the rack and pinion. So it was Gucci. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this rack and pinion in here. I already matched up everything Gucci. Oh, and another thing you're gonna have to remove is the steering shaft. How are you gonna get the steering shaft off? So that one is an 11 millimeter bolt. Socket you're gonna use to get the bolt off, and that's pretty easy to get off. And you might need to get in there with a pry bar just to wedge it up. Luckily, I had this shaft out earlier in the summer probably, and it was just fairly easy coming out. Some of them be rusted, it's hard for it to come. You got to get in there and wiggle it out somehow. It'd be a pain in. Getting steering shafts off is, we say that for another video. Maybe one day I get a car where the shaft is hard to remove, and then I could just show you. Pause on that in case you from Philly, New York, and y'all got a problem with the way I just said my shit. So get your steering shaft off, and then you need to be able to lock the steering wheel. When I say lock the steering wheel, what I like to do is I'll take the seatbelt, I'll move the seat forward, take the seatbelt, wrap it, loop it in one of the, like the spoke of the steering wheel, get it in there, right? Loop it back and buckle it up. Why? Because I don't want the steering wheel to move around. Why do I don't want the steering wheel to move around? Because there's a clock spring inside of the steering wheel. You will hear something rip that don't sound right. It'll sound like plastic spinning around inside of the steering wheel. You hear that, most likely you'll have an airbag light on, and you'll have like some most likely an airbag light, and you'll lose some steering wheel controls. That's literally just a symptom. Is for me always been like the airbag light. Why? Because there's electronics, that circuits that pass through the they call it the spiral cord or the clock spring. It's made to, for when you spin in that steering wheel, you have connection there. That spiral cord acts as your connection. It spins with the steering wheel. Why? How can it rip from overclocking the steering wheel a certain amount of turns, and you don't have a steering rack inside of the car or a complete suspension to stop you from overturning? Your suspension stops you from doing multiple rotations that you're not supposed to be doing. So make sure you lock the steering wheel however you gotta lock it. Me, I use the seatbelt method, and I'm Gucci. So excuse the mess in here. I know it is a little raggedy up in here, but this is my workplace, and I do need to clean. So in the next few days, or actually sometime this week, I'm gonna be moving a car, moving things around in here, and I'm gonna put some stuff up on the side of the garage, stored up so that way it ain't in my way. So let's get this power steering line in first real quick. Alright, so now I'm gonna install this rack. So this rack, I do got the back of the subframe supported. Why? Because I didn't want it to hang down completely. Now I didn't loosen up the front bolts for the front of the can't even say the word right again. Subframe, left and right one, I left those in there. And what you want to do, this rack is dummy proof. When I say it's dummy proof, so it's not one of those old school ones that's splined up. This one is shaped, which means you have to do like you did when you was in elementary school, and they said in pre-K or first grade, they gave you shapes to work with. Make the shape. That's all I can say. So want to make sure the rack is good, and rack is where it need to be. Sometimes if the rack is, it looks over to the left more, it looks over to the right more, you can always feel free to adjust it any way you want, because you'll know when everything is off. Usually, well, of course, either you want to count the threads on the when you're removing the inner tire out, or you could just count your turns and clock it that way. It's multiple ways to get the rack straight again. Bottom line, no matter what you do and no matter how straight you think you're going to get things, you still going to need an alignment. Why? Because you removed the suspension just to get the steering rack out. The suspension alone and the suspension and the steering rack is what I'm trying to say. Those two together. Anytime you touch any of those, you affect your alignment angle. So you're going to need an alignment afterwards. If you don't want to get an alignment, that's on you. I really don't care. If you think your car is straight, then it's straight. Then drive it. Don't complain. Alright, let's get it in here. It came out really good. I had no issues with it coming out. Mind you, I did this job by myself, but I'm always going to recommend other people too. I'm going on the other side and fish the other side where I need it to be. But what I want to say is that certain jobs that I feel like just for educational purposes, you should basically have somebody there to assist you, to help you, so that way the chances of you getting stuck, you can reduce that by a great amount. I'm just saying, because 2 heads is better than 1. But I'm me, I've been doing this for a long time. Sometimes if I have help slows me down. Why do help slow me down? Why? Because they're in there talking and doing all of this extra stuff and messing up my concentration. I'm a line tech. I've been in the game. I know how to work. I don't want nobody in my way when I'm working. So that's how I work. So as you can see, I got the rack in. No problem. You didn't see me struggle. You saw me install the rack. So, being as though you saw me install the rack, and I showed you what to take off, you should know. Going on the other side, fish the other side back again. I just want to make sure I'm in that little for the mount. I want to make sure I'm in the slot, and I'm in on that side. Now, I just need to get in on the other side. So, I'm Leekautorepair. You just got tips and more so procedures on what to do in a job like this. I'm Leekautorepair. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that. Leave a comment, follow me on Instagram. Man, if I save you money, I don't want you to leave me a comment and be like, oh yeah, you saved me money. If I save you, you better tip me. Cause I ain't the dealership and I ain't one of those independent slops. I know I meant to say shops, and I talk about everybody. It was just a joke with no pun intended. But what I'm trying to say is, and I was nice enough to record this and film this and put it online and use my time, and yet cheap ass ain't leave no tip. I holler.